Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello and welcome, dear students, again in this new lecture about a historical survey of literary criticism. As you remember in a previous lecture, we discussed the criticism and literary criticism. We also discussed the purpose of literary criticism, what is literature, and how to become a literary critic. So today we will discuss together a historical survey of literary criticism. As you know, from the 5th century to the present, numerous critics such as Plato, Aristotle, William Wordsworth, Lawrence Powell, and a host of others have developed the principles of a criticism that have had a major influence on the continuing discussions of literary criticism. So, by examining these critics' ideas, we can gain an understanding of and participate in this critical debate while acquiring an appreciation for and a working knowledge of both practical and theoretical criticism. So let us move to the first contents here. As you see, a historical survey of literary criticism will be covered as introductions, then Plato, we will also take Aristotle, and finally Sir Philip Sidney. So let us move to the first slides here and to see Plato and to know the significance of Plato's criticism. Before we talk about the significance of Plato's criticism, let us talk about the life of Plato himself. Now, as you see here, Plato born in 427, 347 before Christian era. Athens, he is Athens, ancient Greek philosopher, teacher of Aristotle, and founder of Academy, best known as the author of philosophical work of unparalleled influence. So let us now talk about Plato as one of the most important critics. You have to know that he is the father or the founder of criticism, and he is also a Greek man and was much famous of a drama. A drama, according to Plato, according to him, a drama is the mother of all arts. It was a branch of their own religion. So you have to be a dramatist first, according to him. Plato is the first philosopher, let me say, in a Greek age and the most famous critic. So he is idealist man. He believed in idealism. And also we can say that he believed that everything is imperfect. So according to him, life is an imitation of an ideal life. So now let us discuss the significance of Plato's criticism. I can add here that Plato felt sincerely that poetry of his time was not good, and that then a prevailing attitude the poets is dangerous not only to the well-being of the state but to the theory, I can say, to the theory and appreciation of fine art itself. So therefore Plato's theory of art is something strange to the Greek, let me say, impressions and outlook. He expressed his theory of art not from the educationist points of view, but from, I can say, that of philosophy. His aesthetic theory is highly suggestive and illuminating and gives hints which are more valuable than any well-formulated theory. So the value of Plato's criticism lies in the conception of mimesis or imitations as given by him in the Republic. Let us now move to the second slide to see Plato's positive contributions to literary criticism. Now here, you see, Plato is not only the first philosophical critic, but also the first critic to communicate the beauty and the charm or creative literature to his critical pages as well as commentary. So we can add here that in the first place, Plato recognized the fundamental unity of all arts in the principle of mimesis or imitations. So he discussed it with a curious, let me say, ambivalent to the reader unacquainted with his, let me say, peculiar logical method. So, in the second place, Plato gave the theory of inspiration the stamp of his own genius and style. The next contribution, what I can say of Plato, is his perfect emphasis upon the necessity of knowledge, exercise, and cultivations of art on the part of the speakers and imaginative artists in general. So, Plato is not only the first philosophical critic, but also the first critic to communicate the beauty and the charm of creative literature to his critical pages as well as commentator. Let us now move to the another slide to see Aristotle 322 up 384 before Christian era. So Aristotle's poetics, his view. Look here about this slide. You will see that the universe of Aristotle is dynamic. His world and is engaged in becoming. Before we talk about Aristotle's view, or before we talk about Aristotle's universe, let us introduce the life of Aristotle himself. Aristotle was born in a small Greek town of Styria in the North Greek district, and his father was a physician who had important social connections. Also, Aristotle's interest in science was surely inspired by his father's work. So he was a philosopher, psychologist, let me say, moralist, political thinker, and also the founder of literary criticism. About his views, one of the general views which runs through Aristotle's thought is a view which we may call by the name of evolution or genesis. So, according to him, the nature of each thing is a potentiality, which moves through a process of development to an actuality which is true and finally and final, let me say, and perfect nature. For nature is the end, as he writes in the Politics. So we find here also that according to Aristotle, the nature of each thing is potentially, as just now we said. Now, there is the table here of contents page of the poetics found in modern libraries, basic works of Aristotle in 2001 identifies there are five basic parts with it in his poetics. Number one, as you see here, the preliminary discourse on a tragedy, epic, poetry, and comedy as the chief forms of imitative poetry. Two, definitions of a tragedy and the rule for the destruction here, definitions and analysis into qualitative parts. Now, three, you will see rules. There is rules here for the constructions of a tragedy. We mean by rules here tragic pleasure or catharsis experience by fear and pity should be produced here in the spectator. So the characters must be four things according to him. The rules here that the characters should be four things. one good appreciation, realistic and consistent also. These four rules for him discovery must occur with the plot. So narratives, story, structures, and poetics overlap. So it is important for the poet, according to him, to, let me say, send and with the creating the plot. So the poet should incorporate complications and unit with the story, as well as combine all of the elements of a tragedy. So the poet must express thought through the characters' words and actions, while paying close attention to dictions and how a character's spoken words expresses a specific idea. So Aristotle here, by these rules, believed that all of these different elements had to be present in order to, let me say, or for the poetry to be well done. And now number 4, as you see, possible criticisms of an epic or a tragedy, and the answers to them. So a tragedy here has everything that the epic has. So even the epic meter being admissible. So the reality of presentations is felt in the play as read, as well as in the play as acted. So the tragic imitations requires less time for the attainment of its end. And if it has more concentrated effect, it is more pleasurable, let me say, than one with a large admixture of time to dilute. So it there is less unity here in the imitations of the epic poets, and this is proved by the fact that an epic poem can supply enough material for several tragedies. Tragic as artistical superior to epic poetry. This is the final rule here for the basic, as you know, word of Aristotle. Let us move now to the main features of the tragic characters. The main features of a tragic character, as you see here, number 1, that the characters should be good. That means that the first characteristics demanded by Aristotle has struck many critics uh, as somewhat strange and extraordinary, but it is to Aristotle's theory because it is the every foundations for the basic sympathy in the reader or audience, which tragic emotions can't be evoked or the tragic pleasure conveyed. So this is one what he mean by the character should be good in novel or short story. The next essential as far as characters is concerned is that of appropriacy. So what does it mean now? It means that what he means is that characters should be true to the characteristics of their particular age, professions, class, and status. So they are individuals at the same times, for they are meant in actions as what we say as represented in tragedy. Number 3 here, the third essentials is that of likeness. It would be more acceptable to interpret the term as true life. Here, the character must be true life. This likeness to life, as we know, if it is necessary, for it is only we can identify ourselves with the character. So we see likeness to life uh, precludes the characters from being either too good or utterly depraved. Number 4, The fourth essential with regard to character is that it must be consistent. It means that the character must be seen here as a whole and consistent to what he is represented as from beginning to end. There is to be uniformity in behavior, unless there is a proper motivations for any deviations. So any development in characters has to take place according to intelligible principles. Let's now talk about the definition and the structure of the tragic plot. According to Aristotle, a tragedy is an imitation of an action that is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude. So Aristotle states here that a tragedy is an imitation. Uh, Imitation of an action that is serious, as you see, complete, of a certain magnitude. It is an imitation. It means that image of human life, which consists of a mood of action. So the term action here includes a variety of aspects of human life. So Aristotle classifies plot in this side into three kinds. One simple plot, a complex plot, and a plot based on the senses of suffering. He took the term imitation from when he used also imitation here. He took the term imitation from Plato. So he gave to it a much wider significance and greater dimensions. He turned the tables on Plato by saying that poetry is an imitation, but imitation of a special type. So the imitation in poetry is not a slavish means copying of the external appearance of things. It is a recreative imitation. So here, after we finish discussing these definitions, all right, let me say something about Aristotle and Plato as a comparative study or differences between them. According to Aristotle and Plato, there are differ widely in their objectives and methods of works. For example, Plato set out to reorganize human life. Aristotle, on other hand, to reorganize human knowledge. When we say Plato reorganize human life, but Aristotle reorganize human knowledge. This is one. Two, Plato language is poetic and charming. So, on the other hand, Aristotle is dogmatic, let me say, telegraphic. Uh, Third, Plato was a more ordinal genius, Aristotle more comprehensive and systematic. Also, we can add here that Plato likened poetry to painting, but Aristotle likened to music. So this is in general the differences here between Aristotle and Plato. Let us now move to the final slides here and to see a new critic which called Sir Philip Sidney, born in 1554 up to 1586. Now, if we look here at his discussion here, at this discussion, Sir Philip Sidney is often cited as an archetype of the well-rounded Renaissance man, we can call him. His talents were multifold, encompassing not only poetry and cultivated learning, but also to the virtues of statesmanship and military service. So we want here to know or to talk about Plato as Sir Philip Sidney as a critic here. It is generally believed that he was um, at least partly motivated by Stephen Gaussen, a farmer playwright who dedicated his attack on the English stage. So the school of abuse to Sydney in 1579, but Sydney here primarily addressed more general objections to poetry, such as those of Plato. In his essay, Sydney integrates a number of classical and Italian precepts of fiction. So the essence of his defense is that poetry, by combining to the liveliness of history with the ethical focus of philosophy, is more effective than either history or philosophy in rousing its readers to virtue. So the work here also offers important comments on Edmund Spenser and the Elizabethan stage. You see here Apology for Poetry, or The Defense of Poesy by him, is a work of literary criticism by Elizabethan poet Philip Sidney. It was written in approximately 1580 and first published in 1595 after his death. So now we come to end this lecture, and I hope you are interesting. Until I meet you again next lecture, let me say goodbye.